Welcome, everybody. This is the Different Spectrums podcast. Wait a minute, time out. I was literally talking to nobody.
It sounded good though. Like that shit was on point.
Thanks, appreciate it. We're joined today. Well, actually, my name is Spencer. First of all, you got me fucked up now, and I'm your host. And we are joined today with Vic, who is a licensed clinical therapist. Yes,
From Michigan.
Yes, from Michigan. Big old Michigan. And now we go to this guy, certified licensed, can't record apparently, life therapist.
Spit it out. Jesus. Therapized, deputized, immunized.
Everything.
Immunized. That's what Aaron Rodgers said. I'm immunized.
And on that note, we're going to be taking a look at the clip from She-Hulk, the new series, where Bruce Banner is teaching Jennifer, aka She-Hulk, the dialectical behavior therapy. Yes, still got it. Yes.
Can't spell it.
Nope. And so let's dive into the clip.
All right, folks, just in case if you're lost, I didn't record any of this, the intro in the beginning, so we had to redo this. Okay. Let's get into the scene. We're going to learn about some meditation. And also for the folks that watched the last episode where we broke down New Girl and deep breathing, grounded visualizations. I did like an entire video on that, 27-minute video. A lot of it is having fun, but then of course there were some serious parts to it as well. Go check that out. All right. Let's see if I can actually do this.
Dialectical behavioral therapy. It allows us to hold two opposing truths at the same time. First, we're going to practice some mindfulness with a few yoga techniques.
Wow, I never thought you'd be into all this mind, body, spirit stuff.
Dialectical behavioral therapy is an evidence-based psychotherapy. It's clinical, not spiritual.
Let your thoughts drift away, relax your neck, bend your knees if that's more comfortable, hold in your farts. Namaste all day.
It's more about presence, about accepting the situation you're in.
Oh, I thought it was about getting my butt tight as hell. Up, down.
Gross, Jen, I'm your cousin. Just close your eyes and breathe, all right?
Wow.
I could see that you're not ready for DBT, so why don't you get some rest and we'll change tactics in the morning. Hear the waves breaking. Feel the breath, no judgment.
So when do you think I can leave
Let's just
here?
focus on each day as they come, Jen.
I mean, I legitimately do have a life to get back to.
I know I've been pushing you through a lot, but being a superhero is a trial by fire.
Bruce, I'm not gonna be a superhero.
What else you gonna do as a Hulk?
Return to my career that I have spent years building. Use my law degree that I am still paying off a fortune in student loans for.
It's not one or the other, Jen. I am trying to show you that we can live between what we want and what is. But we can't pretend like we are two of the few people on Earth that can actually protect her, which is why we have to make sure of your ability to tolerate the stress and regulate your emotions, especially your anger.
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So all of this just feels like projecting a lot of shit onto me.
See.
No, I'm doing this.
Okay, this is completely new territory.
You guys have outgrown your binder, cuz. Love you, Bruce, but I'm going home. All right.
And we're back, people. All right, Vic, what are your first thoughts from watching that scene?
So instantly I went to the thought of how most people kind of stereotype any type of therapy or coping skill or technique. And she was just like, oh, are we doing namaste? You know, when, the jokes came with, do I need to clench my butt, hold it in my gas? She obviously wasn't ready. So I thought that was funny. Most people are just completely out of touch with,
Facts.
yeah, stuff like that.
Facts. Spence, what about you, homie?
Well, for me, I mean, I was first kind of on that side of being like kind of skeptical on like meditation and things like that. But then I actually started like trying it out and just having that deep breathing alone, especially when you're just feeling at like your tipping point, I guess. And even before that, but it's like when you really hit that tipping point, it's really nice to kind of have just that moment of just silence and everything like that. Because sometimes I get a little too like I have to move around or I have to like do something. I have to listen to something. But just having that like those moments of silence and just calmness really go a long way.
So you think you related to her in that first scene compared to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would not be teaching people like, yes, just chill out. That's not me at all.
Okay. Vicky, any reactions to the second scene?
I felt like she was like, I don't have a problem regulating my emotions. I do this shit all the time. And then, she went into examples and you could just, at the end of the scene, she built up and was turning green. I'm like, oh shit. Are you really regulating your emotions or are you suppressing it?
And then what you end up finding out, spoiler, is that she allowed herself to get up and then she allowed herself to calm down. So she actually is able to control it. Without spoiling it for Spencer, she's able to control it, unlike Hulk. It's intense. But there were some salient points that she was making in there. So we'll get to that in a second, in that second scene. Any idea where I'm going to go with this, therapizing these things? Or just talking in general? Vicky?
Probably how people that we work with are very resistant. Humor is something that kind of picked up on from her. She's uncomfortable, obviously, so she wasn't ready to do any of the work, wasn't open-minded. And how DBT can physiologically impact your body.
Solid points. Spence?
Yeah.
He's like, all that.
Yeah. All that. I'm Colin today.
Colin, it's cool. For me, so all those things are true, right? The breathing and regulating and all that. I'm like, yeah, okay. Good points that I could go on. We also got into the last episode of Smidge. This one, I was just literally relating and empathizing with Hulk, trying to teach a client things. And I'm like, bruh, this is every day for a therapist. Every day. Whether it's DBT, any cognitive retraining, like trying to explain how your boyfriend is trash and you need to break up with him. Like, just...
Trying to be professional about it.
Yeah, trying to be professional. Like, do you not see the signs? Like, there's just so many correlations between that and what we do. How he's getting frustrated, agitated. He's like, "You're not ready. You're not ready." And he's like, taking the thoughts one at a time. No judgment. We know this, Vicky. We've said this. No judgment. I see this every day with my young men. Well, I don't like emotions. Well, I'm just going to avoid them. I'm like, oh, okay. So by you avoiding them, we never actually really handle it. As a man, you need to man up and then face it and run into it. Let's go. And he's like, well, I don't understand them. Well, of course you don't understand. You've been running away from them. So actually, let's sit in them and explore them. No judgment. Just explore them. We're going to be little researchers. And then we can figure out how to handle them after we figure out what the hell's going on. We got to identify, and then we can do treatment plans. So I just felt like the Hulk in that situation. When she was making the jokes about like being gassy and all that, me as a therapist and being funny, like I would have cracked up laughing. Because if anyone in my eye, I'll like tell students to do yoga. And I'll be like, all right, if I'm cool with the student, I'm like, yoga is really just stretching, breathing, and farting. because that's what it is. And I remember me and Celine were doing yoga for a while during the pandemic, and we were literally just farting the entire time.
Oh my goodness. Were you guys in the same room?
Yes, we both left out of there. And
Yo.
yeah.
Thankfully, I was not there
We
during
both
that
got E.
time.
coli,
Ugh,
so it was bad.
Spence, you missed out on a good time.
Yep,
yeah,
Spence, you missed it.
real sad about it.
So there's that. Then there's a second scene where Hulk's then trying to be like, all right. And she's like, well, what about this? I need to go back to my life. I got all this shit to do. And she's like, literally just rabbit or running down this hole quickly, like spiraling. And he's like, we're going day at a time. Day at a time. And he's trying to even calm her with his tone. So that's what we do as therapists, is we'll try to regulate your emotions by setting the example, and then you meet us where we're at. But she wasn't having that.
Yeah, she wasn't in the here and now at all.
No. She's way out in the specter.
La La Land.
Yes. So some interesting stuff happens after that scene. And then, she levels out a little bit after that. But it's a wonderful scene. The rest of that scene is awesome. But yeah, she's out there. So that was the main thing, is just trying to empathize for the therapist. So this episode will be good for therapists. If you want to talk more about the deep breathing stuff, and you identify yourself as a client that's super anxious, super avoidant, doesn't believe in deep breathing or meditation, being grounded, journaling, acceptance in the situation. So people I'm not telling you like your things don't matter. I'm telling you to accept what's going on, because that's step one. Like, yes, things are terrible right now. Let's accept that. Yes, you have panic issues and anxiety issues. We're going to accept that situation, radical acceptance, and now we're going to continue to work through that. We're not going to cure this stuff. We're just going to work through it, give you the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks it's a cure model. We're not trying to cure something. So for the clients, if you see yourself being resistant, maybe you should watch this. Take a pointer or two. Because the Hulk was talking during the show, hey man, it took me 15 years to figure this shit out. 15 years. And then two of them years, he's like, I was in space.
It's true. He was in the Coliseum fighting.
I'm trying to tell you. And he made some really good correlations, like someone with high distress, or maybe some of our borderline clients. I know they label a lot of us people of color borderline. Black and brown men and women, that's what they do. A lot of my students are neurodivergent and on the spectrum, they label them borderline because they may cut or self-stim in certain ways, and like, oh, they're borderline. Yes and no.
Why are they doing the behavior? Is it to alleviate pain?
Yes. They're doing the behaviors for many different reasons and many stimulating things. And it's not just for manipulation tactics, which we label some of our borderlines in doing. So they have some of those characteristics, but I wouldn't label them as that.
Right.
And a lot of our black and brown clients, me and you, and Spencer's a brother too, people.
You have to. I'm trying to be undercover. You don't have to tell people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm undercover brother.
They're gonna come for you now.
All right. White people don't even know what undercover brother is. They're like, "What's that?"
Jesus.
Watch the movie.
It's a movie. Watch it. We'll do a clip on it.
There you go.
But yeah, they label us these things, but we're never really taught on how to handle our emotions as black and brown folks. And then also anger and violence is a currency in a lot of the places that we grow up with, and very toxic aggression, masculinity, machismo. And so they'll label us borderline, but in actuality, it's not. It's just a response to trauma and a thing that we have to do to make it in our situations. So, we already know the DSM, which is the book for diagnosing people, is written by white people for white people. That's a different story for a different day. That's also the diagnosis for autism is written for white men and not for women. Of course, that's what the dissertation is on, is autism by women for women, and what are the symptoms and criterion look like and how we should educate people on that. Different story, different day. So, Vicky.
Yeah.
What are you thinking now after I just do it on a monologue, a dialogue?
It's a lot of, I want to be on those future podcasts for what you just said, for sure. But yeah, it is interesting. Like the clients that we work with, they are looking for a fix all, like immediacy. Like I want to be fixed, and I've already tried that. And it's like, we've tried that. How long have you tried that? 1 time, 2 times? you got to be consistent. Like you mentioned, if you have a disorder, it's like a lifelong thing. How do you manage it? How do you live with it versus I don't want to have anxiety anymore? Well, if you had it all your life, you're probably going to have it the duration of your life. So how do you develop these skills that you can use in situations that you may face unexpectedly and be able to cope and live your life? So for me, clients that I work with, they're like, oh, I'm schizophrenic and I got ADHD. And it's like getting away from labeling yourself with the disorder and saying, I have schizophrenia. I have these symptoms. No different than saying, oh, I have asthma. And these are the symptoms of it. And this is how I manage it. I think once we reframe how we think about mental health, people will be more acceptance and, will kind of advocate, and it'll be, a part of just general health and not, oh, I have this or I'm this, So I always tell people I treat the whole person. So I'm looking at social history, medical history, mental history, trauma,
family background,
all of the above.
Yep.
You can't just look at just mental health alone because it could be something going on with your body that's impacting your mental health. And if you haven't been to the doctor in like 10 years, oh, well, no wonder you're going through all this shit. You haven't been to the doctor and your health is shitty.
You missing 3 toes, brother. You got diabetes. You need this shit checked out.
Yeah. And lifelong chronic diseases like diabetes, I've had it twice when I was pregnant. That shit is tough. That is a very stressful disease.
Yep.
So having to poke yourself 6 times a day, and then if you're on insulin, that shit's not fun at all. And it will take a toll on your mental health.
Traumatic.
So I think we need to do more education with those individuals who have chronic diseases like that, because it's tough. Like they should be teaching them stuff.
Yep. Doctors
should be, referring more patients for mental health services.
Yep.
But do they do it? No. And I've heard a lot of doctors that are in training for like residency, they do a very short duration of training on mental health. And it's mind-boggling. Like, really? You only had to do like a semester, if that, or maybe a 2-week training.
Which is wild because I see a lot of those students that are in med school and vet school, and they're all losing their bananas because they're doing 100-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They never sleep, and they're literally dying inside. So the fact that they don't ever understand it or recognize it, and then they continuously re-traumatize or not help others, that's horrible. It's like a different version of generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Horrible. But you're right.
We need more holistic medicine and treatments.
Yep.
Like I go to a chiropractor and I tell everyone in my family who's primarily Black, and they're like, there's no way. I took my aunt to my appointment. She was just like, I can't do it. But my chiropractor was like, thanks for bringing her. That's one person that, you educated about what we do.
Yep. Exposure.
So, yeah. Yep. And that's the thing about Black and brown communities, the exposure piece. And then the trauma that you mentioned, survival. So if you're always angry and fighting and there's violence, you're doing that to survive. That's just a reaction, cause and effect.
Mm-hmm. Great points. I know there wasn't a lot of race in this episode, but it did bring up a lot of different things on gender. And then also I wanted to bring up these things because there are issues in our communities, Black and brown communities. And then I wanted to talk about regulating emotions. So that's where this all spiraled into. Favorite part of what you said is the acceptance. Is you got anxiety. We're not trying to just cure this thing. We're trying to help you support and help you live with this. Stop the self-hate around the issues. Because that's when the dramatically will go down. Because people out there having anxiety about having anxiety. People out there having panic attacks about having panic attacks. They're throwing up because they're worried about throwing up. I'm like, bro, this is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Let's accept that you may throw up tomorrow. Let's accept it. So now let's plan for it if it does happen. Let's give you the tools, the DBT, to get the shit done when it hits the fan. So when it's game time, you can lock in, do your presentation. And if you have a panic attack, you can excuse yourself, do what you got to do. And they're like, oh, wow, that feels good. Like, yes, that's empowerment, jackass. Instead of self-hate. Spence, you just heard 2 therapists doing their thing and intellectually muscling up on you. How you feel?
Feel good. Trying to act like
Yeah, you are.
I know. But I mean, honestly, it takes a lot of work for what you both do. And it's unfortunate that some people have such a
Sorry.
negative connotation about therapists, and maybe it's because they have like a one-time bad experience. And so I think honestly, it's very important for people out there to know that it's not going to be an easy thing finding the right person that's for you, because it's just like every other type of relationship in your life. Sometimes it's not a first love at first sight thing, right? So it's you really got to keep on finding somebody who really wants to take the time to actually find out about you and like what you need to do to get better. That's
Yeah.
my
And you know that, man, because you know, I told you many times, Spence, working over at St. Mary's in here, some of them
yeah,
therapists, they're just reading from a book
right,
and they're not invested, but maybe they're burned out and they got shit to do in family and health issues. Like, I get it. But then
right,
some of them, they're just like robots. And I'm like, this
right,
isn't
Mhm.
a personal thing. This is just, you just reading
You
off of
checked
note
out.
cards. Yeah.
Checked out.
Checked out. And so it doesn't help the client, doesn't help you. So sometimes you just got to find the right one. So you read their bios and try to find those matches. And then also, I don't want you to just jump ship from therapist to therapist. Is
right,
maybe you should talk to your therapist in the moment, like, hey, you know, some of these things aren't going the best, or I wonder if we can focus more on this. Advocate what your needs are in therapy. Like, you're paying them. Ask them to do better.
And your therapist should be checking in with you. Hey, everything that we've discussed and been working on is what's the feedback? Is it working? Not
Yeah.
working? What can we do differently?
And so this is kind of, if you link it back to the scene, Hulk was trying to do some of that stuff, and he's like, all right, so if he was a good therapist, he would be, all right, what's going on? Let's talk about this
Mhm.
resistance right now. Well, let's talk about why you won't do the breathing. Let's talk
mhm,
about how you're not even giving it a shot to see if it even works. Are you scared about failing at it? Or do you feel stupid? Do you feel different types of connotations of femininity, soft and all that things? What's going on? What's holding you back from doing the shit that I'm telling you to do?
Confrontation.
But
My
therapists don't like
favorite.
doing this, and clients don't like doing this. So the client will just dip out, and the therapist will check out.
Mm.
But my ass, my neurodivergent ass,
Confrontation.
oh yeah, my neurodivergent ass, I'm like, what's up? And they're like, I don't
Hmm.
know. I'm like, we talking about it. I don't want to. We're gonna do it. And the students are just like, God damn it, Nas. They're like, I shouldn't have brought this up. I'm like, it was too fucking late now. You done said something. Now I have to ask you 50 questions about the thing. Well, I don't want to talk about it. Well, okay. Give them 2 minutes. And then I'll ask the question again. They're like, you're just going to keep asking. And yep. Because you brought it up for a reason.
Yep.
So, for the folks that wanted more of the DBT stuff, relating this back to what Vicky said, exposure. There's going to be a lot of nerdy kids, young folk, that are going to watch this scene and Google what DBT is. Some of them may have negative connotations of what it is because of the way she acts, but they will understand what DBT is. I've never heard the word DBT in my life in any of these movies, these nerdy movies. Never. So the fact that it was said is going to be vastly, greatly helpful because it's exposure. And with acknowledgement or education, then we can identify things. With identification, we can provide resources. With resources, we can have better treatment. With better treatment, we can have better outcomes and better well-being. That's why I wanted to do this scene. Okay. Pause on all that stuff. Like I said, if you want to do more of the dialectical stuff, look at our New Girl episode that we did. The parts where she talked about the sexism and the stuff that happens to women, the catcalling, the expressing their emotions, and then they're going to think that she's, the B word, that she's emotional, she's volatile, she's hormonal, right? Or then I literally just talked to a client about this. That what does she do when she gets catcalled? And I was terrified to talk about it because I was worried that they were going to say that something bad happened. Thankfully, nothing bad happened. And then we processed it. And I'm like, hey, I'm a dude. I'm a big boy. This has never happened to me. I can empathize with it. I'm scared for you. But then also, we're just going to talk about it. And then I want you to consult some of your homegirls, some of your mentors, your colleagues. And I says, you know what? As a heads up, I've had many women that I've worked with that when they get catcalled, you've got a couple different options. So you might want to say something back, but then also don't generalize any of your reactions. It's like, what you mean? Because every situation is different. Look at your surroundings. Are you alone? I shouldn't have to say any of these things because men should just be better, but they're not. So we do have to make sure that our clients are protecting themselves. It's the same thing with my LGBTQ students. When some of my gay men are walking around with their partner holding hands, is it the appropriate time to engage with discourse, or do we let this go to make sure that we don't die?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had students tell me, like, Nas, I'll just give the dude my number if he asks for it. I'm like, why? Because if I say no, he might freak out and kill me. I'm like, Jesus. And it's like those moments where you're just shocked with the privilege that you have as a man. And you're just shocked just in general. Like, I can't believe you have to worry about dying because someone didn't give you their number or you didn't give them their number. So my client gives people fake numbers. This a long time ago, years ago. Black woman too. So if she was hurt, police wouldn't care probably, but different story for a different day.
It's actually happened in New York.
There you go.
Like 2017, 2018. Lady was attacked. She was leaving the convenience store or something, and the guy was trying to talk to her. She was like, "No, I'm good," and he attacked her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
Sketch. And so she's brought up like, I'm good at handling my emotions because I do it every single day. What does your ass do, Hulk? So I did an interview once. It was with the university. St. John's University out there on the East Coast. I think it's in Baltimore or Maryland. It's somewhere out there on the East Coast. So I was doing an interview and it was to work with athletics. And so I was talking this and that. And they said, how do you handle, distress? How do you handle like things like that, stress? And I said, work is easy. They're like, what are you talking about? This work is hard. I said, when you grow up as a person of color and poor person of color, we handling stress all day, every day. This stuff in here in this office is easy. Going to the chaos of your client and maybe being violent or trying to, this is easy compared to what I grew up with. So this stuff I can handle. This room when it's chaotic is safe. Y'all ain't never seen this. You read about some stuff, but you ain't never seen this. So to me, my emotions are solid. So if a student's freaking out and having a psychotic break or wanting to hurt me or someone else, I don't freak out. If they're suicidal, we need to hospital them and call the police, I don't freak out. A lot of people freaking out because they've never had to regulate their emotions like I had to. So this is where I related to her in the story. Obviously, she's talking about experiences with misogyny, sexism, and violence towards women. I'm talking about as a person of color having to regulate their emotions throughout the chaos and the traumas of his life. I feel like a lot of us of color have been through those things. So that was the second piece I wanted to bring up because I feel like a lot of people in the room watching are not really going to pay attention to that. And I feel like a lot of women are going to finger snap and a lot of LGBTQ folks are going to finger snap to that moment. Finger snap for some of my neurodivergent folks and other folks. That just means like clap, applaud, affirm, validate, or empathize with that scene. Does that make sense what I just said, Spencer? And then we'll toss it back to Vicky.
Yeah, complete sense. I mean, it's tough because it's like, for me, when somebody ever tries to check me on something, it's either because it's like they want something that it's either like my manhood they want to try to test, or they want to take like my monetary value, like my money, my phone, whatever. Right. And so women have this thing of value that men want. And it's like, and there's no price on it. And that's why everybody just tries to take that. Because I mean, that's what they want to do. And I can't relate to it in that sense because I don't have that, right? That's the only sense I can really do it is by somebody trying to take something like either my manhood by, doing those emotions or something of mine as like a possession. even though it's not like women aren't possessions, but you know what I
Yep,
mean.
I know
Right?
what you're getting at.
And so it's tough because we all have like our different struggles and things, but you know, that scene didn't click with me because I don't have to really go through that
Correct.
in my lifetime. Only, like I said, the only time is like when another, like I'm out somewhere and a big dude wants to try to mess with me, or a little guy wants to mess with me because I'm a big dude, right? And that's the only sense. And somebody wants to beat me up for no reason just because I do whatever.
And
But
that's valid that you brought that up. Like, you don't have to experience that, and that's why I brought it up as well, but in a different context.
right,
So it's awesome that you brought it up too.
right. And so I just think that it's gonna click with a lot of women and everything like that. And it's nice to see that like Marvel and these other companies having diversity inside of their shows and everything like that. It's just it's always tough for me because I don't click with that, right? But I also don't click with like I don't click with like Iron Man because I'm not a philanthropist billionaire or whatever,
Every scene
right?
doesn't have to click with everyone.
Exactly. And that's fine. And it's just as long as we start enjoying the things that we really like, I think that's where I like things like this. Is just enjoy it
Yep.
for what it is. We get to have shows on the daily with, Marvel characters. Yeah, like I never had that really growing up as a kid. So it's a special time.
Yeah.
I'm diverting from the subject I first started with, but
You're
yeah.
good. Vicky, we're gonna toss it to you, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay. Um, like you, Nas, I identify with the person of color. Um, for me, I feel like when I leave out my house, I have to be very conscious of how I carry myself, what I say, what I do, how I'm perceived at work, at a grocery store, driving. Like it's always a conscious thing. Like, how are they going to take me? I got to be polite. Um, and then also, like, I've been catcalled before. When I used to live in Detroit, I remember being like 14, 15, getting catcalled by men that were like 30 or in their 40s. And it's like, you kind of just put your head down and, you're walking away and trying not to make contact or not say much. But as I've matured and got older, I try to be polite or, not think, okay, this person that's giving me a compliment is trying to get my number or do whatever. They could just be saying hi. There's nothing wrong with a stranger of the opposite sex saying hi, you're having a good day or you're beautiful. Some people might be rubbed the wrong way, but that depends on your experiences. Have you had any trauma?
Yep.
I haven't had any trauma like that, so I can't necessarily say, I wouldn't do that. But it's all about your experiences and what you feel comfortable with. Me as a person of color, I feel like I've been conditioned my entire life to behave or act a certain way. So, like you said, we kind of regulate our emotions a little bit more because we have to. Like you mentioned, um, the people, the populations you serve. Like if a kid's having an episode or someone's threatening to kill themselves, you're not overreacting like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? You're just kind of calm and collective. I've had to petition someone to the hospital like 2-3 weeks ago. And I was just like very calm about it. Like, okay, just want to make sure you're safe and we're gonna get you some help. And you want some water? No? Okay. Well, we're gonna chill until the folks get here. And I think being a therapist, just me personally, I feel like if you're a therapist and you can't openly talk about some of those things when it comes to like suicide or just tough emotions, that's gonna, maybe you shouldn't be a therapist. That's just my couple of tea on that. But kind of going back to what Spence said a little bit earlier, the rapport piece is so important. I've had clients, I used to work with Talkspace, and I've had clients just first interaction, they're telling me about why they're in therapy and they're like spilling their guts and crying. And they're like, I'm sorry, I've never done this. And I'm like, that's good. That's what you're supposed to do. This is what therapy is. Thank you for feeling safe and comfortable that
Thanks.
you can express yourself and be in the moment. That's really hard for a lot of people to do. So this is a great Marvel scene.
Good
Really
scene.
great.
I told
Yeah.
you. So as we're wrapping up here, We're gonna segue into another scene from She-Hulk, where she's actually getting catcalled, and then I'm gonna talk about some stuff for also neurodivergent folks when it comes to masking, and what Vicky was talking about is code switching, masking, assimilating, acculturating. So we're gonna get into that in the next scene, along with a few other things. Want to thank Vicky for coming to the show and the podcast as herself, as a therapist, as a mom, as a partner, and so I just want to thank you as that. I also want to give her a shout out because I know you got your own clinical practice. So,
Yeah, mentally fit. Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm revamping my website. Need some work, but if you guys are interested in therapy and you are in Michigan, because I'm not licensed in Michigan, I am licensed in Utah.
There's some fans. We got a group of people that watch in the Detroit area, so I got some Michigan fans.
Okay.
Yep. So if anyone needs any therapy, if anyone looking for a therapist, down to earth person of color, I know it's hard to find person of color, black woman, it's a therapist. Mentally fit on Instagram, Facebook. Spence, take us out.
Yes. All right. Thank you, folks. And I think we can definitely put her all her socials in the description just to put in there. So if you can just click on it. Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for the likes and the views. Keep on coming. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Like, subscribe,
share,
and comment.
Share.
Yep. Share. All right, folks. Vicky, you don't know this, but we always do this weird, awkward dance as we go out. So cue outro music, and then you just gotta like do some type of weird movement. So cue outro music.
Okay.
Nope, she's not doing it.
Oh, I'm waiting for the music.
No, there's no music. We're just dancing.
Oh.
There it is.
There it is. Okay,
there it is. Longest outro ever.
Yep. And that was even more awkward than it should have been.
Close my eyes, and I hope for the best. And the worst happened.